This is the Gambit alt hypocrisy problem, and I'll get straight into it. So, let me give a history lesson for the whole introduction of Gambit in Marvel Rivals. A few seasons ago, people were wondering if he was a duelist, if he was a strategist, what role would he be? I was actually leaning towards duelist more than anything because it fit his character more in my opinion. Then it turned out he was a strategist. Now, when a lot of people got early access to Gambit and played him, mostly the big streamers of course, because they get special perks that other people do not, the actual fan base who wants to play the game, which is a little side note, I saw clips of streamers, and I plan to put it in my future videos a little bit, of them saying the game is severely boring and they only play it because of money, and I don't think they should play characters early. They have that mindset, if you don't like the game, get off. Go back to Overwatch.
Look, it's so boring. This game is so boring if you don't make money from it. Matches are so bad.
But getting back to the point, when he got added to the game publicly, a lot of people were playing him, but DPS pretty much claimed him as their own, just like how they did Ultron, because, you know, he can actually do damage. He has complex kit. Pretty much, Gambit, I've always said, is Daredevil if he was put in the strategist role. You choose one ability, two more abilities pop out. Pretty much like that. But DPS claimed them as their own. Previous seasons, a lot of people were complaining about heal ults, as they call immortality ults, even though there's several ults that can kill through even basic attacks, but, you know, they don't want to talk about that. And so the devs are like, okay, a lot of people are complaining about heal bots, you know, immortality ults, whatever you want to call it. And first they added Ultron as a support, which pretty much healing's the secondary. You doing damage and pressuring pretty much the enemy supports or other flyers, that was the main objective. And you know you have a good Ultron if you have a lot of final hits and a lot of damage. And his ult could be used as damage and pressure. I mean, that's good, right? But no, it wasn't too much because people still complained about other supports. The devs are like, okay, let's add a support in Gambit whose ult isn't a support ult really. It's more of a damage boost, jump boost, speed boost, and where healing's the secondary. You can still kill through it with a hella ult even before the healing nerf, but it's just like that's the opposite of a support ult. It just amplifies everything that comes from DPS damage, and it instantly became meta from how high damage was in the game, because his ult is only as good as DPS are in the game because of their damage. They might say, well, what about support's damage? What about tank's damage? Well, DPS do the most amount of damage in the entire game, so their damage will be the most amplified, meaning they have the most impact on Gambit ult. So Gambit ult is only as strong as it is because of other DPS and how strong they are. Imagine Hela, how strong she is. Hawkeye Gambit team up with the ults. The best combos with Gambit are DPS ults. Now, you might say, well, it's just a more mobile rocket, which yeah, it's even a better rocket. While it doesn't give you shield, it still heals you. You can still move around. The only caveat is they actually need to be in your line of sight for you to actually ult, which I know some people still don't know that fact, but you know, there's more time to learn. And a lot of people do not realize this because people are hypocrites in this game. Now I would say it's mostly DPS who complain Gambit is too OP and too unfun to play against, because he can pretty much anti-heal you, destroy you, spin around you, jump around you, speed around you. He's very unfun because you can't react to him. I'm just like, weren't you guys just defending dives and saying they should one-shot supports because they're super fast and unreactable? But you're complaining about Gambit because he can kill you really fast and it would be unreactable. And so the devs, after everyone was complaining about, you know, Gambit's all being too overpowered, him being pretty much a permaban, the devs were like, okay, let's nerf his healing even more. Let's go more into the gimmick of it, which is he does everything but heal now. I mean, the healing is horrible on his ult. I think it's like 35, 45-ish. And you can still burst through it with a hella ult. You can burst through it with a normal hella base hit. You can burst through it with normal basic hits. I mean, it's not very good. I'm pretty sure it's less than Rocket solo heals. It's like, that's not very good. Now, it is something on top of other support ults, and the damage will definitely push you back, and you can still heal through other support ults, but so can Rocket ult. A lot of people just complain about Gambit because of how fast everyone is. Because his damage boost isn't as high as Rocket. I don't believe. I would be wrong about that though. But one of my points is, I mean, all these support ults that got added. Luna, I mean, she was the GOAT. I mean, ever since season 0 for several seasons in a row. Power creep came in. Her ult got nerfed by 2 seconds. I mean, her ult got nerfed a lot by cost too. And so she fell hard out of the meta. And other people came to rise. I remember when Invis Jeff were meta. I mean, that was a time. Jeff got reworked. I mean, mean, all these people have again lots of changes, reworks, nerfs. I mean, at one point, Loki, from his impact, was given a 20% nerf to his damage and healing, and that instantly threw him at one of the lowest tiers, the worst support in the entire game, just because he could copy these high sustained support ults. Now, he's only as good as he is because of how other support ults are so powerful, and people don't get that because people just like to complain. They don't actually look at the solution, they just look at the problems. He sees, see, that's bad. Loki's super overpowered because he can copy other support ults. Just like, well, the main problem with Loki and his main power creep is based on other support ults. I mean, there's a reason if there's a Gambit, there's most likely a Loki playing on the same team. Now, I personally don't like playing with another Gambit because I just don't like playing in that high damage meta. Okay, whose DPS are stronger? Because I know my luck with that. Well, the throws I've gotten from DPS 3 in a row, and like my last session, I'm now C2, as of recording this on the 2nd, but just like, that is really annoying to deal with. And I understand that. I get the hate for Gambit ult. I get the hate for Gambit in general. I think his base form is fine for the game. I don't think it's super unhealthy. I do think his damage needs to be tuned down a little bit, resulting in he's fine. But a lot of people, I believe now, are just blowing it way out of proportion. They complained, most of DPS. Oh, Gambit ult is too strong. Look, another brain dead support. Man, they're so powerful. They're immortal. You can't kill them. It's like, you know, you can kill them if you're good enough, if you have good aim, right? And again, you don't do that because you either play very overpowered characters like Hela, Phoenix, which granted do require some aim, but you can hit 40% of your shots and still get like 20 final hits per game. I mean, you are top tier if you have anything above 50% accuracy rate. Look at that. You can miss over half your shots and still be the carry of your game because of how busted the character is. And Gambit ult doesn't have a weakness like, let's say, Phoenix, where it can instantly get wiped away in a blink of a second, but you can still get bursted down through it. In terms of sustain, Gambit ult is the worst in the game for support ults, but people do not realize that, other than maybe Adam. But you know, when I'm talking about somewhat sustain, not just revive. And a lot of people do not want to have this conversation where you guys were complaining, I'm talking about DPS here, so much. Supports are too sustaining, do too much healing, are immortality ults. Then when the devs added someone who does healing last and everything more, that amplifies your own damage, your own movement, because DPS, more than any other role, have good movement. Well, you can't handle it because let's say the enemy team has better DPS, who have better sustain, better positioning, better aim, better movement. I mean, that all will get amplified against you, DPS, who struggle immensely against them because that skill gap gets even larger the more you increase the speed, because now positioning is even greater, aim is even greater, you need fast reaction speed, so it's a battle of the DPS every single Gambit ult. Now, I'm not saying other, supports can't damage and impact, I'm not saying other tanks can't damage and impact, but DPS have the highest amount of damage increase from the Gambit ult. Especially the Namor Squidge, I mean, look at their damage. DPS benefit way more with Gambit ult compared to any other support, compared to any other tank. The only one I can really see as an argument is Loki, who can copy him, but that's not really base anything. Now, you could do the ruins while the Gambit is ulting and guarantee your team to not die through it, and so your enemy team dies faster overall, but that's not really good for long term. Let's say if they have a Gambit ult right after and you can save it with ruins. I've even won team fights where just because the enemy DPS were so bad, nobody died on our team because we just didn't use any ult and just backed up, sustained our team, and that was it. But people don't realize this. They don't want the meta change. They've been complaining that they want the meta change over and over and over again. That, oh, we don't want more sustain, we don't want more sustain, these support immortality ults are too much, get them out of the game, nerf them to the ground. But when suddenly something's not sustain ult, something that's not an immortality ult gets out of the game, then suddenly, oh no, I can't handle it. Granted, it's a little overtuned, but I get that. But it's just like, you guys got exactly what you asked for, and you're still overly complaining about it. And that is pure hypocrisy, but I get it from DPS mains. Now, getting to like my high ranks and like C2 and everything, I can't remember the last time I went against a Gambit, I'll be fully honest. It's been a while. He's banned every single game alongside Phoenix, Hela, and maybe Namor, I would say, maybe Groot too. All these people are perma bans. Daredevil's actually slipping through the cracks a lot because of how other poke DPS are so powerful, which I'll get into that in another video. But I fully believe if they tune down the damage a little bit and people still complain about it and still instant ban him, they need to figure out how to adapt to the meta. I mean, I made that same point with Overwatch where their support ults are horrible compared to ours in Rivals. And a lot of VPS, they're so used to now our support ults in this game that they don't want anything that's different. I mean, you had kind of Ultron with the opposite problem when they added him as a hybrid between DPS and support. His ult didn't kill through a Groot, so people were like, okay, buff his ult, more damage, more damage, more damage. Okay, then he went meta in the flying meta. He was hard meta then. Then they nerfed him to the ground, and then now they buffed him into an actual decent place. I would say still needs buffed a little bit. Makes him actual more viable in double support. But you could see the parallels. People wanted more damage with the support ult. They didn't want sustain. They wanted more pressure. Gambit is just a more amplified version of Ultron. They went more down that road of, okay, more damage, less healing. You're going to be doing more damage. That's your first directive when you're ulting compared to healing, which is one of your last. Now I want everyone to comment what you think of this. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.